September 18th, 2025 regular business meeting of the Forsyth Central School District Board of Education. We'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand and join me as you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So the first item on our agenda is to adjourn to executive session, and that is for the purpose of discussing tenure reviews and an individual personnel matter, as well as a legal matter pertaining to the district. So can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Abstentions? The motion carries. We'll go into executive session. We expect to return to public session at approximately 6 p.m. Thank you. Call the meeting to order, please. So thank you. So we are returning from an executive session that was held to discuss tenure reviews, individual personnel matter, and a legal matter. No action was taken in that executive session. So we are coming back to the public session, and we are at item 1.03 on the agenda, reconvene the public session. I will move forward to item 2, approval of minutes. We have one item, approval of the minutes from the August 14th, 2025 regular business meeting and action on the tax warrant. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments or questions on the motion? Okay, we'll vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay?
No.
Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Item 3 on the agenda, community questions and comments. So I will just state briefly the instructions for everyone's understanding. And this is Board Policy 2370. The way it is structured is that we have an initial period of up to 30 minutes for comments, which can be extended by virtue of a vote of the board, a majority of the board. Comments should be held to 5 minutes for individual speakers. The public comment period is not designed to be a discussion, but rather an opportunity for the board to listen. Accordingly, board members will not typically respond to thoughts, questions, or concerns posed at the board meeting. We also want to make sure that people understand that this is, you cannot discuss individual district personnel or students other than the speaker's own child for privacy reasons. All speakers are to conduct themselves in a civil manner. I'm not worried about that. Okay, so do we have anyone that would like to address the board this evening? And I'm sorry, let me just say, we do to just try to track the time. Terry will have a timer, and we'll give you a signal when your 5 minutes are up, and then give you a chance to quickly conclude your comments. So if you'd like to speak, please approach the podium, just give your name and address, and then we'd be happy to hear from you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bill Finnerty. I live at 964 Grove Street in Elmira. I'm the president of the Forsyth Teachers Association. And I'm here tonight to ask the board to add a monthly agenda item that would guarantee units of the district, like the HTA, the opportunity to address the board and potentially establish a dialogue and exchange of information. Like all of you, I serve as a voice for my community as a school board member for the Elmira City School District. One of the things that I appreciate about being a school board member is hearing from the different units within the district. On our monthly agendas, there's a portion of time separate from the public comment section that is reserved for reports, updates, or statements from any unit interested in addressing board. This allows for units to inform the board about successes, concerns, and events that have or will be taking place in the district. If there's no representation from any of the units, we simply move on to the next agenda. I realize that this is a strange request to make at the first board meeting of the school year, but I think that the opportunity for dialogue and interaction between the units and the board can only increase the board's knowledge of what's going on throughout the district and help unit members feel heard and understood going forward. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the consideration of this request.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, my name is Mike DePetta. I live on Langdon Hill Road out here in New York. I'm a service veteran of over 30 years, and my question I'm proposing to the school board is why Horsehead School District does not offer a veterans credit tax relief or break on their school taxes, the way that the county offers that same break on your county property tax. That's my only question. And I have several other veterans that were supposed to be here tonight, but you were the late nature that I couldn't make it. But that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen Geary. I live at 170 Wygant Road in Horseheads, and I am here tonight just to give a short idea of I'd like to readdress the start times in the district. So, here, Superintendent Douglas, Board President Christmas, Vice President Unvarsky, and each of you additional board members. I'd like to respectfully present to the board a community petition with over 400 signatures for you to reopen and review all information, studies, comments, and concerns regarding the start times of our current schools in the district. Myself, as well as the other residents noted, do not feel that the current start times are in the best interest for our children's well-being from an academic, home, school, or safety perspective. I'd like to thank the board, though, for the many efforts already put forth as we work through the 2030 plan. And I know that we in the Horsehead School District, whether it be parents, teachers, board members, want the best for our children first and foremost. So as the committee that I am heading up, we respectfully request that the school board form a committee to formally investigate and discuss this issue. We ask that this committee be tasked with exploring the research, evaluating the potential benefits and challenges of later school start times, and engaging with the community to develop a solution that works for all of us, but especially our students. We, the community, look forward to a further communication and discussion on this topic. I thank you for the time. I'd like to present, if I may, the original petition. You want to take it? Okay, this one's to Dr. Douglas. Okay, any other board members? This one for Mr. Christmas, please, the original, and that's for the student rep. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the comments, for the presentation of those materials.
Hi, I'm Megan Blitz. I live on Reynolds Drive in Horseheads. Good evening. My name is Megan Blitz. My daughter Isabel is a senior this year. We are very excited and pleased to learn that she would be attending the New Visions program this fall. As you know, it's a competitive program where students apply and interview for limited spots. Isabel is also taking an ACE accounting course before her Morning New Visions program. When we received Isabel's schedule in the mail, I thought there must be an error, as her accounting class ends at 8:55 and there's 5 minutes until her next class starts at Elmira College. Just for reference, Google Maps tells us that the drive is estimated to be 12 minutes in clear weather conditions, so the 5 minutes would not be adequate. When we received, I'm so sorry, I stepped ahead. Over the past week since receiving Isabel's schedule, I emailed her school counselor and principal, the BOCES administration, and most recently exchanged emails and phone calls with our district level administration. I'm bringing this to the board for your consideration, as I have exhausted my communication efforts to resolve this without your consideration. We were told by district administration that they had worked with BOCES and the teachers at BOCES and Horsets to let them know that some students might get a bit late and that this is affecting more than just our district, and they are good with that and have set time aside to extend their lessons if needed. My daughter Isabel was still pretty anxious about this setup, so I contacted her teacher at BOCES, but he didn't know anything about the extended lessons. He said he would try to be flexible, but the class starts at 9 a.m. Again, I emailed district administration to reiterate my concerns regarding missing instructional time and that there's not enough time to transition. And this would obviously cause extreme anxiety for a new driver. On Friday, September 5th, Isabel met with her school counselor. She was 20 minutes late to New Visions, and she was looking for a solution. She was told she didn't have any options, and BOCES would not allow her to be moved to the afternoon session. So I emailed the administrator of the BOCES New Vision program to ask to move her to the afternoon. Our building principal got back to us and said that that just would not be possible, but that the district would make the exception for Isabel to drop New Visions, which they typically don't allow, but they would be happy to do that for her. We did not take that opportunity to go forward with that. At this point, I emailed the assistant superintendent and then the district superintendent and explained the schedule conflict. I reiterated my concerns over the current schedule and her current verbal plan that she's been given, which is to use her judgment and leave at an appropriate time, which also means that she would miss 20 to 25 minutes of instructional time every day. I have been assured through a conversation with the district administrator that he would contact BOCES administrators, ask if Isabel could be moved to the afternoon, work with building administration to make sure that she has a specific time to leave her ACE accounting class, that her teachers are aware of this plan, and that somebody would touch base with her to make sure she feels comfortable and safe with that plan. As that was Monday, and as of today, neither Isabel nor I have had any follow-up regarding this conversation. Just two additional parts that I feel compelled to address. So Isabel doesn't have enough time to get from one campus to another. As a parent of a new driver, it terrifies me that she will be rushing. She knows she's ultimately responsible for the instruction happening in 2 locations at once. Isabel's schedule is not reflective of what's currently happening. If it were to be accurately reflected on paper, there wouldn't be enough time during the school day for the classes that she has been scheduled for. Our policy for attendance in the district, policy 5100, states that students must attend 85% of scheduled classes to earn their credit toward high school diplomas. Daily expectations means that students who miss more than 12 minutes of a class for 14 instances would not be awarded credit. That would be 168 minutes. This is the 3rd week of school, and at this point, Isabel's already missed 220 minutes of instructional time. I appreciate there isn't a simple solution, and I'm not exactly sure how I can proceed without your help. Thank you.
I'm sorry, just if you have some more you wanted to say, feel free to take another minute. I didn't know.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I was respectful of your time.
No, absolutely. I'd be happy to let you finish.
I guess the bottom line is, I feel that we followed the chain of command. I completely anticipated there to be some glitches when you overhaul the district's time schedule like we have. I instructed Isabel to go to her New Visions classes and her classes just as scheduled. On the first couple days of school, she came home just a wreck, and I said, hey, has there been any communication of something different that we can do? And she said, no. I was the last one to show up. I was 40 minutes after the first kids that arrived at New Visions. I was a little embarrassed. I said, I don't blame you. Really, the big deal here is she's missing instructional time. She's in a hurry to get where she needs to go. I can't pin down a specific time that she needs to leave by. And there's no specific times that her professor or her teacher at New Visions is going to be looking for her. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address the board this evening?
That's not going to go all the way, so we'll do the best I can. Hi, my name's Nick Finlayson. I'm presenting this by both Angie and myself. Angie is not here at the moment. She's over volunteering at Marcet's marching band and then ready for the weekend. So a lot of this is going to echo what was just said, so bear with me, but I apologize for that. To the Board of Education, as we begin a new year, I keep thinking about the image you've used and the multi-tiered system of supports discussions. The student's invisible backpack, MTSS, should help lighten that pack. However, some district decisions feel more like stones are added to it. I have a senior this year who drives himself to Ohio College for his BOCES program. On top of normal academic and social pressures, his backpack is heavier because of the decisions that this board has made. Because start times were changed and do not align with BOCES schedules as planned, he must choose between leaving Horseheads early or arriving late to his New Visions program. Neither option feels acceptable to him. He values his teacher's time and wants to meet his own high standards. Thankfully, that burden has been eased by parents who speak up and teach their children to advocate, by a principal trying to make the best of a situation she didn't create, and by teachers who see a nervous new driver doing his best and going unsafe and on time. Is that how you imagine MTSS working at the high school? As a series of crises patched by goodwill? Even well-intentioned policies can add weight. Consider middle school athletics, a culture of double teams and no-cut approach may seem inclusive on the surface, but it can also prevent students from experiencing the consequence of not making a team. A consequence that often opens doors to new activities, friendships, and identities. When those students reach high school and find themselves sitting on the bench or disconnected from a team, where do they turn for community? Is that when you expect MTSS to step in? How about elementary music? Changing band and orchestra to an optional 4th grade may have saved money, but it also removed the early opportunity for students to discover a passion. My son's 4th grade band requirement led him to community, purpose, confidence, and perhaps even his career. How many students never had the chance to find that spark because the district decided that music should be an optional expense? Have you considered the impact of that decision on the music department and staff as a whole? So tonight I'm asking you to consider how the policies you approve and the actions you allow can unintentionally deepen students' burdens. In that light, I implore you to do 3 things. First, think more broadly about the student impact of your actions before you approve changes. Take time to consider the effects of policies you have implemented and assess, and the true costs outweigh the benefits you intended. Examine the examples I mentioned earlier, and consider if it helps or hinders this new MTSS initiative. Second, consider the start times you approved and BOCES alignment. The board approved a policy under several misleading assumptions, but the primary statement that the district used to pressure the decision was that it must align with BOCES programming. It does not. A 15-minute adjustment from the approved policy may seem insignificant, but students shouldn't have to choose between leaving class early or arriving late to programs they worked hard to get into. And third, you must hold the superintendent accountable. You are the only people elected by this community to do that job, and we rely on you to carry it out for us. Demand full transparency and accurate information on every budget and policy proposal. Do not allow changes to be pushed through under the guise of administrative authority without board review. The start time policy and the changes to foreign language program are clear examples of what happens when the board is not given full picture. And our students are the ones who pay the price. We have listened to wonderful presentations highlighting the work and effort being done by the MTSS committee, but I wonder if the board should play a bigger part than passively watching it be built. I wonder if the board should consider that at your level, MTSS can be implemented as a preventative approach to policies and curriculum that creates conditions where students find belonging, purpose, and support before those needs become a crisis. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comments. Do we have anyone else that would like to speak? If not, then I'll just say I appreciate, on behalf of the board, all the community members that spoke this evening, brought forward issues worthy of consideration and discussion, which, as I explained, we don't do at the moment here, but I, for one, as the board president, am appreciative of what you've said, so thank you very much. So with that, we will move to our next item on the agenda, which is, I believe, the debut report from our student representative, Serenity. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. So obviously we've got the school year going, so we have lots of clubs opening up, mainly class officer elections and officer elections in general. So the senior class specifically, our first event is going to be our senior sunrise on October 3rd. It's a Friday. It'll be at 6:30 at the stadium. So that's up and running. A lot of other class officers are still doing their elections. We have lots of clubs. We have Scary Movie Club. We have our CBH Club. You can get applications out of room 100. Way more clubs than that, but I'm not giving you. We also have the green room players are looking for people to join. So once we start our show, which is to be determined, they have people and they are actively looking. So if you have a child that's interested in anything like that, music, background even, our sports they're going and they're going good. I mean, we're winning a majority of our games. It's very exciting. I'm very excited. Cheerleading has their first competition on the 27th. It's in Section 6, so quite far away, but still. Football just won their first home opener game, which is very exciting. Swim's been traveling, many more opportunities athletically. And if your child did this opportunity to sign up for sports this fall, there are many more opportunities in the winter.
Thank you very much, Serenity. Nice job. We appreciate that information. It's just sad that the sunrise is going to be later and later, right? So get it at 6:30 while you can. So we'll move to the next item on the agenda, Section 5, presentations. 5.01, we have a presentation from the district's external auditor, Mr. Zuber. So I'm going to get set up here.
We need to make sure all the mics are off because the control, Terry will be guiding the mic that has to be used if there's any questions. Please let her know. Yes, just make sure. As long as that. Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me here tonight. And as mentioned, my name is Tom Zuber. I'm the partner with Mango Escobar, and we're the external auditors for the school district. And I'm here to present the June 30th, 2025 basic financial statements for the school district. As you know, the year ended a few months ago. We have met with the audit committee on Monday, and we talked for quite a while, almost 2 hours, on the basic financial statements.
We just want to make sure that mic is,
Can you hear me?
maybe you could get a little, yeah, sorry.
How's that?
That's good, thank you, sir.
Better? All right. So again, we did meet with the audit committee on Monday and had a nice meeting. Probably met a little over 2 hours to talk about the basic financial statements. We talked about a lot of different information. We talked about year-over-year variances. We talked about budget variances. We talked about reserves, fund balances, internal controls, checks and balances. So we had a very nice conversation. The basic financial statements, there are a lot of information. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of some of the items that we discussed. We did issue an unqualified opinion, which is really the opinion you're looking for in the audit. It basically says the financial statements are fairly stated. There were no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, so that's very positive from the financial statement standpoint. Just like many other districts, you continue to face many challenges. State aid uncertainties certainly continues to be a challenge. Not only state aid uncertainties, but certainly what will happen on the federal level as well. Property tax cap, employee benefit challenges, inflation. So all areas that will continue to be challenges for school districts, although we did hear today that there was a little cut in the basis, so I think that's very positive as it relates to some of the inflationary challenges, interest challenges out there, so that's something that has happened. But again, the district continues to be in good financial condition. There are a few things that we'll talk about briefly, but overall, the district ended the year in good financial shape. On the revenue and expense side, you did generate positive budget variances of about $860,000 on the revenue side, about $3.7 million on the expense side. So you spent about 96.5% of your budget. Okay, so just from last year to this year. In addition to that, you're using fund balance to balance your budget. So you appropriate about $3.7 million to support the 24-25 budget. So just to refresh ourselves, that means if you have a budget, right, and you have estimated revenues, and you're balancing that budget with appropriated fund balance and reserves. So you balance the 24-25 budget with $3.7 million of fund balance and reserves. You did reduce that for 25-26 to $3.1 million. But what does that mean? It means that in order to generate or to break even, that you basically need to generate budgetary surpluses equal to that $3.7 million or the $3.1 million. So just to keep that in mind. But overall, your fund balances did increase this year, about $2.9 million. So again, that's very positive from a financial statement standpoint. A couple of the other things we talked about is, one of the areas that the district has been receiving for the past few years, the federal stimulus funds. So those funds have been completed. In fact, you received about $2.7 million in 2024. You only received about $219,000 in 2025. So again, the program completed at the end of 2024. So again, just to be aware of that. One of the challenges the district has faced in the past relating to health insurance. And again, as you know, the district is self-funded on a health program. And in the past few years, you have seen some challenges. You've had to amend your budget relating to some of the significant claims and getting some large stop-loss reimbursements. You did not have to do that this year. So that did help generate some of the very positive financial results this year. And again, as a result, you were able to refund reserves about $3.2 million. So not only did you pull some dollars out of the reserves this year, but you did also refund some of those reserves. And that is something that we talked about in our internal control communication. We have some other recommendations really to enhance your financial reporting. And one of those recommendations is really to look at your reserve levels and how they relate to what you're appropriating in reserves and fund balance. So that's something to keep in mind. The school lunch fund is one of the other areas we talked about. You're doing an excellent job in the school lunch fund, so continue to monitor that. Again, you're within the federal 6-month average expenditure category, so that's very positive. And one of the other items we did talk about was the capital project fund. As you know, you've had a very large capital project going on over the past few years. And as part of the capital projects, you're issuing short-term financing. So when you look at the financial statements, your capital fund does report deficit fund balances, but that really isn't unusual in a school district when you're participating in large capital projects. It's, you finance these projects with short-term financing, and when you issue your actual serial bonds, those deficits go away. So it's something we did talk a little bit about with the audit committee as well. So again, nothing too unusual there. It's a big number, but it's because you're financing your projects with short-term financing. Okay? A couple of the other things we did talk about, not only did we talk about the operating statements, but we did also talk about this entity-wide statement, but it's one of the first financial statements you see in your audit report, although it's not how you operate. It's just more to make the school district look like a corporation. Okay? So we include all of the long-term assets, including buildings, land, equipment. We include all of your long-term obligations. But that statement does report a deficit net position of about $85 million. So it means your liabilities are more than your assets. Okay? Now this is just for financial reporting purposes. It's not how you operate. Okay? But the reason for that is you have this retiree health obligation, which is about $169 million, which what that is you have actuarials that come in and they review your different contracts, okay? And based on the contracts you have in place, you've committed to your employees $169 million in health insurance benefits when they retire, okay? So it's an actuarial calculation that's performed each year. That number does change from one year to the next. It is an estimate, but it does tell a little bit of a story. So you're almost 75% higher than what your current budget is. So again, that is the reason for that deficit in that statement in that position, because you have to report that in the financial statements, but New York State doesn't allow you to fund it. Okay, but again, it's not how you operate. You operate on a pay-as-you-go basis. So you have $1 million expense, you budget $1 million, and you pay $1 million. So this is really just for financial reporting purposes. It's a snapshot of time, but I do think it does tell a little bit of the story, and you should really take a look at that and compare yourselves with this one. But so that's just something to note because it does jump out at you in the financial statements. So just to be aware of that. Not unusual. Many districts your size are in that same position. So again, it's not unusual, but just how you report that particular obligation. Okay? And I mentioned there were no material weaknesses or internal control findings, but we did have a couple of recommendations relating to financial reporting, primarily around reserves, looking to enhance some of the reserves. There's an option for a reserve for health insurance. So again, something that we're suggesting the district consider, as well as looking at your reserves and how you're appropriating fund balance in relation to the level of reserves you have. So if you want to continue to appropriate fund balance and reserves, you really should take a look and try and enhance some of the balances in the reserves as you go forward. Okay? So again, overall, you did end the year in good financial shape. Okay? You're using fund balance, you're using reserves to help balance your budget. You do want to continue to monitor your budget. Obviously, you'll continue to face some challenges out there. But again, at that snapshot as of June 30th, you're in good financial shape. Any questions?
Just for the board, if you have a question, just let Terry know she has a mic that she can bring over to you, because the way we're structured, we have to use the handheld mic. So just let her know there.
Hi. I don't really have a question because I got to ask a lot of questions when I was on the audit committee this year. And thank you very much, Mr. Zuber, for all of your time and taking that time to help explain everything to me. And thank you to the members of the audit committee who were very patient and let me ask a lot of questions. And to Katie and Ann, who let me ask a lot of questions. But some of the things that I think are important and that we didn't, that we aren't talking about per se on here, but within the audit report itself, was talking about the additions that are coming and the debt service line breakouts, which I think when we go through the finance, since that's when we're going to be voting on it, we can talk about that specifically then. But I think I think that's important to go over, like being able to looking at the long-term debt to have a better understanding of it. I know that I learned some things and I want to be able to share that with the board. But that is, again, in the finance section, so I just wanted to say thank you again, and that's it.
It looks like we don't have any other questions. Mr. Zuber, thank you for your presentation. We will move to our next item on the agenda, which is the superintendent's report. Item 6, we'll talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Christmas, ladies and gentlemen of the board, members of the audience. Obviously, we are in, I believe, day 12 of the new 25-26 school year. There is obviously a lot of transitioning going on that we've been talking about over the past 2 years. The opening of school, as you're aware, on the first day, we had substantial traffic changes. The substantial traffic is not unnew for the first day of school. However, with the transitions, it did pose many challenges that were unforeseen. One of the biggest unforeseen issues is within the area of transportation, where in the past we've had roughly 60% of high school students riding transportation and roughly about 77, 78% of students at the elementary schools riding transportation. For some unknown reason, our high school transportation went up to almost 78%. But our elementary transportation went down to about 60, 61, 62%. So that put more cars on the road, especially at the elementary schools. None that saw it more than probably Garden Road. Big Flats has always had that issue where there are lots that are transporting. The high school had a lot just because of learning new routines and heavy construction that sort of gave a very strong microscope to the fact that there's only one way in and one way out. As far as the schools, once the kids got into the schools, they went through their day. It is longer for our elementary students right now, and that is something that is going to be over time, just like when our pre-K start, they have to develop that educational strength for that lane. So will our elementary schools K through 6, because they had one of the shorter days in the area and across the state. Because of that, it's sort of how we got here. And a lot of it goes back several years to the consolidation studies, to the time when I came in, that there was a request for more instructional time. There was even some work on that to the point that there was a merger vote. And then also, eventually, the state created not just a day requirement, but an actual time requirement, which unfortunately we were a little short on. We had a waiver period, and during that waiver period, there was a negotiation that addressed that instructional time. With that, we also had discussions about how do we try to build a better transportation system, as well as the HCSD 2030 project that was approved 2 times by the voters that would ultimately close a building. Ultimately, there was a goal of trying to get 1 hour less, trying to align the best possible with the BOCES, as well as align our buses to meet the goals and minimize late buses, or lateness of the buses, because for a lot of people would not understand that at the middle school and the high school, students would get out of school around 3 o'clock, but never get on the bus until about 3:40. And then it would be about an hour, hour and a half ride home. I'm happy to at least say our busing system, although it still is tweaking, is meeting its requirements, getting students on the wheels moving on the bus once they leave school property to be transported home to roughly about an hour or less as reported by the bus garage. I can tell you that last year our buses would regularly be coming off the road roughly around 4:35, 4:40. Right now they're coming off the road at about 4:30 to 4:35. And that is with the change of start times and ending times. The harder part is busing is built around being able to get the buses where they need to be. One of the things that impacted that also is moving the intermediate school with the middle school, which was a desired goal for emergency preparedness and so that the whole school could be transported. And that was something that we elected to do, but it did change start times because unfortunately the middle school and intermediate school times are less by about 15 minutes from the high school time, where they have a 7-hour day. I believe the intermediate school has a 6-hour and 46, and the middle school has a 6-hour and 50. These are all designed through the contractual negotiations. These adjustments mean that if you adjust one, you have to adjust the others. We purposely tried to keep the elementary time at its set time of 8:40. Honestly, it was probably a mistake of mine because as we moved the high school to 8:35 and the intermediate and middle school to 7:15 to more fully align with BOCES, the middle school, intermediate school would have needed to be about 7:10, the high school about 7:30. We try to make the decision based on all of it and what we can do the best we can, given the fact that if you have a shorter day, you must be picked up and dropped off first versus the longer day. In addition, these time adjustments to unify the building, intermediate and middle school for busing, emergency preparedness, implementing the plans which we knew were starting this year, especially with the closure of Ridge Road and the movement, have put a lot of stress on the system. I am very proud of the administration. I'm very proud of the building principals, the teachers, the support staff, the teaching assistants, who have all worked steadfastly over the past 10 to 11 days to bring a lot of things within line within the stressors far quicker than we have in the past. It was an issue at Gardner Road that there was a major overhaul just on Monday. And for the past 2 days, they've hit their milestones to the point that there still needs to be some tweaking, but I have every confidence in the building principal and the staff there that their plan and adjustments are going into place, and buses rolled out at 3:29 today, even 1 minute ahead of when they were supposed to. The road traffic on Gardner Road was absolutely backed up. We heard from the village. No other school district really addresses this because there are going to be traffic issues when you have short areas of drop-off and pickup at schools, whether you're in Corning, whether you're in Elmira, whether you're in Avoca, and so forth. But I'm very proud that the plans came together, that we were able to switch things, especially in this building, that 100% of the traffic is now off Gardner Road. At Big Flats, that's where our eyes are turning next. Roughly, it's about a 7-minute issue in the morning. And we met today to try to develop a doubling up of cars to get them off the road. And we think that Mr. Coughlin and his team are trying to work on that for next year. I mean, not next year, next week. That we should be able to, at that point, from the individuals that came and spoke before, and I've had conversations with them, that will be the traffic is off the road. Center Street is a little more of a challenge. With Ridge Road's traffic being there, but we are working on that, and for the most part, it's about the 5 to 10 minute right around Center Street, Sayre, and the entry. But that's going to happen unless you build bigger parking lots. We've used what we've had. For Ridge Road at Center Street, it is a 1-year issue because as soon as they move back to Ridge Road, They will be adding more parking, a different bus loop that will get that off the street. Basically, what happens is any change is very difficult and challenging. Nothing is perfect. But we work at making sure we make tweaks throughout this year, and we make sure we give it time to work. We said that going in, and that is what we need at this point. So I just wanted to give a little update, because one of the questions I had was, why is this going on? Well, that's sort of the what it does. The hard part is people don't understand is that you could not literally drop off students at the high school and middle school at 7:45 and 7:50 and expect to go out and collect students all over the district and drop them off at the elementary school at 8:15. That's one of the major issues, right? And then when you do set the time, you have to take the shortest time and make sure they're usually picked up or they're separated out long enough. I made a mistake by saying high school. It should have been the secondary or the single bus run. Because at the time, we were looking at 3 runs. The district could not afford the 3 runs, nor did the administration feel that having 3 runs and having elementary being the last run or the middle school being the last run, being well after 9 o'clock would be acceptable by the community. And therefore, 2 runs is the only viable option. What assisted that was intermediate school and middle school being joined. I know some have said maybe we could do all in 1 run, it would possibly save money. The problem is our kids would be waiting on the bus from elementary to intermediate to middle school to high school before they even be delivered home. And that would be very time consuming. So we try to make the best decision we can, and now we try to work through it and work forward and adjust as appropriate. We are in alignment with absolute expectations from the New York State Education Department on days and times. We're actually over, which now allows us to address heat issues if we need to, which we could not do very easily at the end of last year. These are just some of the things that went into this planning over a 10 to last 3-year process. The opening of schools in general, a lot of good things. You've heard from Serenity. Kids are absolutely doing what we expect them to do, coming in. The hardest part for them is the cell-to-cell or bell-to-bell cell phone ban. I'll probably ask Serenity a question in a minute, but from an administrative, from a teacher standpoint, what we've heard, talking to teachers, talking to administrators, it's been very positive, and that is the push across the state as well from each individual district. There are some districts that have trouble with it. There are some districts that have done it 2 years, 3 years. I'm proud to say that although we did not invest a large amount in yonder pouches or other things, our students are complying by doing reasonableness. Kindergarten through 8, they're not supposed to have their phones. If they have them, they're supposed to be in their locker or put away. If the high school, 9 through 12, when they come in, it's off. It's located either in the locker or the backpack. And for the most part, I think 98.9% has been accepted. We're still in the honeymoon period, I think. We do have a couple things that we were talking. And Terry, do you have my little props? Just so people know, it wasn't that we weren't looking for some type of help if we got non-compliance. But you can kind of hear Terry bringing them out. That is the Velcro on the pouches that we will have to institute if we have any issues. If it becomes an issue, we can rapidly shift to a full implementation with every student. Thank you. These pouches basically are very simple, and they're meant to address a couple things. Parents said very clearly, we want to be able to get a hold of our kids in the event of an emergency. Well, in the event of an emergency, we want your kids to stay off the cell phone for the time being, get safe, and don't talk. Text quietly and turn off that little clicker. But at that point, if they're in the backpack, they have them on. If they use this pouch, say they were constantly using it, we may put them on this for 30 days. This is for the high school. It will be available in the middle school. But the reason why this is very nice is that a student has it, and they have it in their bag, and they say, well, I'm going to sneak it out. Most teachers or people will all of a sudden look. But what happens is about this pouch, which is much better than the yonder pouch, is this pouch is an RFID pouch. Once the phone goes in, it cannot receive a signal. You just take it out, actively okay. I don't believe our kids need this at this point because they're showing they are young adults. If we really had a problem, because let's face it, does it lock? No. But they also make a locking pouch. It's not magnetically based. We don't have magnets running all over the place. It's actually one of the few that are mechanical based, and you have to see an administrator to be able to unlock the mechanism, which is that quick, and then you still have to unzip it. This is probably the ultimate deterrent, because if Serenity, if I can use you as an example, say you have a violation, I put your phone in here and it's locked, you gotta find me at the end of the day to get it unlocked. Yeah, you can cut it, but then you'll have to replace it because the bag will be assigned to it. So this is where we are going, and it's about 50% of the cost of what other districts are doing with the yonder pouch, which A, requires the magnets, $100 a piece, even though it's a fishing magnet, and it's not RFID. If that phone is in the yonder pouch and it goes off, it's still going off. And you can't shut it off because you can't access it. So that's where we've tried to resource and use some of the state money that's come in. We haven't expended it, we did a sample to see how it works first. And that will be going out probably next week to the high school. We may even ask a couple students if they want to sort of experiment with it and see it. But a lot of times we've been hearing from the students in Serenity, have you noticed the difference at the school?
I would say I have noticed that, people, like you said, are complying with it, especially in class. Obviously, there are frustrations when it comes to lunch periods and free times, but obviously it's a New York State issued rule, so there's not much we can do about it, and I think we recognize that, as you said, as adults, so.
Is the lunchroom a little noisier now? Do you notice?
I have fourth period lunch,
Oh, that's-
so it's like, yeah, it's very empty, so I don't really know how the third period lunch is.
And the reason why is most of the faculty and staff, especially the SRO and the assistant principals, I know Ms. Earl, Ms. Gunderson, you're here. The lunchroom used to be a place, and I hope you understand, I agree. I'd rather have the kids have some access. We treat them like adults, I think they would handle it like adults. But unfortunately, it's the law, so we can't, and I appreciate you recognizing that. But here's what's happened. The kids are actually walking and talking. The kids are engaging a little more right now in class. Some of them maybe still want to sleep a little, I understand. But for the most part, the kids have been playing Uno, different things in the lunchroom, engaging, which we may have to look at, okay, how do we encourage some of that interactivity? But it is a good initial positive. We've had parents call and say, no, I wasn't sure. I've talked to a couple at sporting events. This is the best darn thing, to use different words, that's ever happened. My child needs to keep their nose out of scrolling, right? And what happens is even some of the kids have said, yeah, I'm probably paying attention more. I know I like it, but my grade has come up with it. Now, those are just short synopsis. There are others that will probably have a negative view of it too. I don't want to make it like a panacea. But that's the intention, and I think we're at least on the right direction from what I'm hearing at the high school and from what I've heard at the middle school so far. I don't think at the elementary you really deal many times with cell phones. It's more, can I have more recess time than anything else? I don't blame them. So that's what's going on there. I do want the board to know, shifting gears, that as all staff have to take our regular sexual harassment, violence in the workplace training. It's called, for us, it's a whole bunch of training, but it's called vector training. The board should be getting that email if you have not already received it, right, Ms. DeFilippo? And she's all happy. I think we've got about 30 days is the deadline to get that completed. For the board, we gave it to you probably about 10 to 15 days. We'll extend that a little, but it has to be completed somewhere roughly by that time because we have to report it to state ed. In general, as best can be, things are starting off well. People are working, people are trying to solve problems as they do. We're here at Garden Road, and I've been here. I actually stayed away today just to watch, and it's hard because there's no view, but there's one house up there, you can see how many buses come in, when they're coming in. And if I would have made that to 8:45 instead of 8:40, all of our buses would be in exactly on time. 1 or 2 buses are now running 3 to 4 minutes late at the elementaries, where it was 15 to 20 buses running 20 to 40 minutes late at the secondaries. And now all the students are able to get on and get off. It's just a news, so I'd ask for some patience as we go through that. In general, we've got ticket prices and sales are out there for the tickets. You can see us at the gates. You can call, I think, the high school, go in. Our veterans, our senior citizens 65 that are Horseheads residents, free pass all year long. Please come down. We want to thank you for your service as well as supporting the district. But it was something that the board committed to, I think, roughly 2 years ago. It continues. Our biggest home game of the season will be in, not this Friday, not next, but the next, and it's Elmira. Think of the parking that we're going to do. We pulled off a good job the first night, but parking is going to be challenging. We have all kinds of things and utility vehicles to help those that may have difficulty getting there if they have to park away. We do try to keep handicap parking and for those that have assistance up close to the stadium as much as possible. And we are asking people out that we may be doing some busing and shuttle runs as well. We are trying to open sort of a bridge through our construction area to try to open that path as well for that night, but it takes a lot from our contractors who have been, local contractors who have been very good trying to A, work with us, and B, be on budget, and be ahead of schedule, which they are. At Ridge Road, they almost have steel completed. Once they're done there, they're going over to the high school. The high school is in final foundation. They were supposed to get the steel about January. They believe they will get there probably November, December. That is all good news because as soon as we can get inside the envelope, it starts to open up the campus as much as possible. We will, as I've told the board, towards the end of October, be doing open houses in the evening in each of our buildings that are done now, Garden Road, as well as Big Flats. We will do sort of, if you want to come over and we can talk people through Ridge Road, and we will have the high school so that people can see the return on their investment as the district is finally starting and finishing its update. I know somebody mentioned earlier that we are planning a project. We are not planning a project right now. The board is going to have that discussion for something in a future year, and any statements to the contrary, it's really up to the board to decide. But it is something that, as you go through, you try to get to a 3-project, 5-year cycle, because once you do, and those projects are done, when the project is paid for, you are able to recycle that money and never take it from the community again for some 50 to 70 years, which the reason why our price tag is high right now is because for 50 to 70 years, nothing was majorly maintained. When I came here, every single roof was out of warranty by some 10 to 15 to even 20 years. That is a major financial cost. Right now, our energy is outperforming, and we can put in climate control, which now you're seeing we kind of need because the state put in a heat index. If we go to a certain point, they say we may have to close, and I don't think that will make many people happy. But where we have climate control, we wouldn't. Right now, our biggest building, biggest concern at the end of this project will be middle school, intermediate school. And that is the first project that would be slated in any project if the board chooses to ask the community for that support in the road. But it will not be this year. If anything, just discussions or the pre-planning phase of that. At this time, I want to thank everybody. Please come out to the Elmira game. We had a huge crowd for Baltimore, almost 2,000 people. Normally we get 7,000 to 8,000. It is a great night. Please be patient with our concessions. It's hard to get everybody through. But I hope that helps, and I want to thank the members of the board as well for your patience during my discussion.
for that report, Dr. Douglas. We will move to the next item on the agenda, our finance items for action. We have, first we have the audit committee report to be presented by the chairperson of that committee, item 701. So, Ms. Dale?
Okay, so we met on this past Monday, and everybody just saw the presentation from Mr. Zuber. We went through the details of the audit as much as we could. It was a great audit. No deficiencies were found, so there was, little for us to really complain about or have discussion about, other than just generic questions related to the details of the audit. The two recommendations that came out that Mr. Zuber mentioned tonight that we will consider as part of the corrective action plan is to look at establishing a health insurance reserve in the future, which is something that has been brought up as well in the past. So that's something that we can look at, all the requirements associated with that, which is pretty expensive to set up that reserve with the state. And then also, and we talk about this every year too, is, as we're taking money out of our reserves, we need to continue to have a plan to continue to fund those reserves. And that's all so we can secure our financial health as we move forward. And that's a discussion that we have with every audit. We talk about it at every audit committee meeting, as well as throughout the entire budget process. So those are discussions that we continue to have, and we recognize that. There was no corrective action plan required because there was no deficiencies, but work will be done to address the recommendations. And that was our audit.
Thank you very much. So we will now move to the action vote under this section. We have items 7.03 through 7.18 for approval. Is there a motion?
Second.
Comments and questions on the motion? I think you can use your handheld. Mike, do you have one of these?
Yeah, once we go through the presentation.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to make some comments about the audit report, because that's where this actually is in this section. So on the full-length audit report, if you go to page 37, which is 39, and it's talking about the short-term debt, one of the biggest questions that I had, and that we kind of went over, and I think it's important for new board members especially to understand as you go through and you're looking at the long-term debt and how it's forecasted. Page 37 is showing, I don't know if you guys need more time to get there. It shows your band construction loans. And we still have, so the one isn't gonna hit the books until June of 2025. And then we'll still have the 102 million, that won't hit the books until June of 2026. So now, yes, we will get aid at the same time that we get that, but that's also when we are responsible for paying our share of that, the loan that we take out. So the 15% of the $102 million, or the 20%, that's when it will be added to the budget. So we have yet to get to that place where it's completely in there. And so that was shown to me after I had questions about comparing last year's audit to this year's audit in the, it was right below it, but there's a line that shows your forecasted long-term debt obligations, and last year it was at 5 million, and then it went down through that each year, 26, 27, 28, and it was showing your payments. But this year it jumped up to the 6 million, and so that's what I really tried to work hard to understand. Like, if I'm looking at the long-term debt obligations, now I'm seeing that it's up to 6 million. So how do I know what it's gonna be next year? Is it going to 7? Is it going to 10? Is it going to, You know, and I think that those are the projections that we have to have and we have to have readily available so that we know what's really coming on the books, so that we can plan and we can have real conversations about looking forward at the finances. You know, we know that we're gonna have to pay $6 million for the new capital construction things that may be coming on. So, and we know that we're gonna have these obligations for benefits and other things. How are we gonna be fiscally prudent and make sure that we're investing everything else where it needs to really go? Because in the end, like from the first year experience, the cuts were coming from and impacting our programs and our kids. So I think that that's something that's really, really important. And Tom said that Katie and Ann, they get those numbers and they have it, but I think we need to see exactly when it's coming and when it's hitting the books. And so I just want to make sure that, you know, we have, so while there's, you know, we're not doing anything wrong, we have to really know our numbers and know what's coming. And I wanted to share that information with you because I think it has to be simple enough so that our 6th grade students can understand our debt. So that anybody can understand what's coming, how it's gonna impact, because then everybody has the chance to come out and advocate for what they'd like to, you know, what's important to them and their kids in the community. So those are my comments on that.
Thank you very much. Oh, you were going to respond? Or yes?
Thank you. So just a couple points. As far as the schedule of the short-term debt, you had mentioned the $50 million that was coming on in 2025, and then you referenced the 102 coming on in 2026. I just want to make sure we're clear that this isn't an aggregate, that we're not adding 50 million, we're not adding 102 million. I just want to make sure we're all clear on that. That this is it's a renewal process. We renew what we've already borrowed while adding on the additional cash flow that we need for the upcoming year for the work that's anticipated to be done. So we take what we've already borrowed and then we add what we anticipate we need to expend for the upcoming year. As far as the debt schedules, once we convert to a fully amortized long-term bond, like we did through DASNY for referendum 1, the amortization schedule does become more concrete. It is it's a set note, you know what our principal and interest payments are going to be. The bands, they're short-term note, they're only good for 1 year. So when we borrow again, while we have the schedule from fiscal advisors, they are projections based on what we believe our cash flow needs are going to be in subsequent years. But we do adjust them. We work with Welliver and Hunt to really understand how much cash we're going to need in the upcoming year, because we don't want to borrow too much, because that's more interest expense that we're going to incur up front that we don't want to pay. And we work with fiscal advisors, 1, to determine that amount, and 2, look at our building aid that's coming in, so we're not having a big jump in that local share. So the debt service payments that we're going to make versus the state aid we anticipate coming in levels out of that local share, so we're not seeing big spikes of the local share, so the tax levy stays relatively consistent. So we do have those debt service schedules. We have those for our bus purchases, the 5-year notes for our bus purchases. We have them for our short-term notes, and we have those for our DASNY notes as well. So we are happy to provide that information as we go through budget development, but just keep in mind that we can talk about debt, we can talk about health claims, but those are obligations that we do have to pay. They're not things we can take off the table. During budget development, we are obligated to pay those debt payments, we are obligated to pay those health insurance claims. So yes, definitely something to talk about during budget development when we're looking at the big picture. How to pass the tax cap calculation and the budget as a whole. But as far as any discussion about a reduction in the debt, the debt is what it is and we are obligated to pay it.
And it's been approved.
Yes.
Thank you. Please, yeah, go ahead, did you recognize?
harder times, we have looked at this as part of the budget process. We look at it in detail every year when we do the audit. We also look at it as far as part of the finance committee when appropriate. So none of this really should be a surprise. I mean, it's stuff that we have been looking at over and over again. You know, Katie and Ann, you know, continue to remind us of it throughout the budget process. They continue to be looking at the big picture and looking and having that forward looking. So I just want to give kudos to the two of you and the rest of the business office because, you know, I think you're doing an excellent job keeping it in front of us and being forward looking and making sure that the district is protected and what our obligations are. So thank you, and you know, we've been doing this.
Does anyone just want to speak on 7.12, the audit report? Because if not, then we can open it up to other comments on the motion. Please go ahead.
The only thing I wanted to add is I think it would be really beneficial. Healthcare costs was something that Estelle mentioned as, you know, kind of opening up and looking at ways that we can create a fund for it. I would suggest that we look at a consortium of some type. I know that was something that did come up. I know it's something that came up in the past, but it would be possibly beneficial to see if there is a way that we could help to lower those. Could be beneficial for the district to do that.
Thank you. Other questions, comments on the items that are pending with the motion? Cool.
I did also just have questions on the change order summaries. Looking at that bottom total and having it being adjusted by 1.9 million, what does that, is that over the budget? Is that on the budget? Is that, can you explain that to me, the change order?
It's right at the bottom.
Kate and Ann, you can join in, but it's not anything that the board hasn't approved. And it's been told to the board several times in the past, and the board has authorized those. Those are the alternates that are added in when we did the Ridge Road project, and we held the awarding of certain things on that project to make sure that the high school project was also able to be awarded, and we held some things to protect the bid as alternates, and that's what we explained, I think probably 4 or 5 months ago to the board, and it was even a question before about why are these alternates showing up on the change order, and we explained that as well. So I know that it looks that way, but we are on budget for the total project. What the board authorized in this project was reduction because of high inflation, high costs, all of a sudden, not through us, but through the project, that the intermediate middle school HVAC was removed from the project at this point to make sure that Ridge Road could definitely be done, otherwise we wouldn't be able to consolidate, and the high school would be able to be finished up. Is that pretty much the wrong gist of it, Katie? But any other contrary item, this is not over budget, it's not unforeseen. These were actually budgeted, awarded projects within the actual budget. Our budget is in well control, and we are ahead of schedule. And I know other people may not be able to understand that, but we take great pride that we are doing this job on behalf of our students in the district. Garden Road came in on time, under budget. Big Flats came in on time, under budget, and we were able to utilize the resources from those to make sure that we were able to do fully Ridge Road and the high school as well. And right now, we're on time, on budget, and I expect we are moving to under budget. So hopefully that helps.
Others on this item?
I was just gonna ask if we're ever able to see, when you're talking about that, like the references to like the finance and stuff, if we're ever able to see,
Total
is-
project.
yeah,
What we actually, because we saw this question coming for some reason, and we are going to work on our facility, my facilities committee, to ask them to do a rectification and do it maybe quarterly and add it to the change order log just to keep an update for the total project.
okay, great,
Yeah.
that would be very
No
helpful.
problem, that's easy to do, we just have to get them into the habit.
Thank you.
And that, just so that you know, that will go like the last time Hunt was here, they gave an overview of all the projects where they settled out and the rating. That will be sort of what we're asking them to produce.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, others want to be heard on other items in the motion? Okay, I was just going to add my own comment to what we were just discussing, and I know this from serving on the Facilities and Grounds Committee, but I do think it would be helpful, and I'm happy to hear Dr. Douglas say that we will work on this, to see in a total. So what is shown in the change orders are the bid amounts plus the incremental adds, but not the net budget and where we are vis-a-vis the net budget. And I do think that would be helpful for all of us and for the public. So we will definitely include that as was stated in future documentation. So if there are no other comments or questions on the motion, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of items 7.03 through 7.18, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. We will move to item 8, personnel items for action. We have 3 items, 8.02, 03, and 04 for approval. Is there a motion? Thank you. So we have a motion that's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on these items? Please.
I just need to abstain from, on H04R1 and 2, conflict of interest. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Clerk will note that. So I'll call for a vote on the motion, approval of items 8.02, 3, and 4. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? And any abstentions other than Ms. Monahan's? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Item 9, miscellaneous items for action. We have a lengthy list here, 9.02 through 9.11. Is there a motion? Okay. Comments or questions on the pending motion? Is Ms. Monahan?
I will again abstain from 9.09, conflict of interest.
Noted. Ms. Unvarsky?
I have to abstain from 9.02.
Thank you. We'll note that. Hey, Shimona, I'm sorry, I didn't think you had my back to you.
It's okay. I have to abstain from 903 conflict of interest.
Okay, any other comments, questions, or abstentions to note? Okay, I'll call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor of 9.02 through 9.11 say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? And abstentions have been noted. Okay, the motion carries. We'll move to item 10, board policies. We have first a policy committee report from the policy committee chairperson. Thank you, Mr. Conklin.
All right, so we met September 8th and we discussed policy 6230. And it was the consensus of the committee that we delete this policy in its entirety. A, because it's not a required policy by law, and secondly, because within the policy, there were legal citations to cross-reference, and all of those legal citations are things that are prescribed by law. So for example, there was a citation for 114, that's the school breakfast and lunch program. When we approved section 704, the revenue report, there is the school lunch program right in that report, the checking account for the school lunch program. So we are following the law in that area. Section 200 dealt with students with handicapping conditions. And again, within section 7.04, the revenue report, we have a federal checking account for revenues that we receive for these programs. And then the third citation was 167, and that was for an adult education program, which we don't have in this district. So the consensus of the committee was it's all covered under the law, we're following the law, and to follow in the footsteps of Mr. Johnson, who likes to get rid of policies that are meaningless, we honored our first meeting by recommending that this policy was no longer needed. So when you open the first reading, you'll see the whole section was deleted, and that's the rationale for that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Compton. So then, moving to item 11.01, which reflects the proposed changes to the policy, which, as noted by Mr. Compton, is the full deletion. Are there any comments or questions that board members would like to make at this time in regard to that document? Ms. Dombrowski?
I think I've maybe said this before. If not, I understand that the things are covered under law, but I don't particularly like deleting policies in full. I think that it's a good thing to have policies so that, like, you know, if somebody had a question within the school district and they wanted to see how we function, they're not going to automatically know what anything is. So to just have it there for the public's reference, so if they wanted to look something up and then they can find something further from there, I think it's important to just sometimes keep some of that stuff there. You know, obviously we're going to be following those things because it's covered under law, but it's nice to be able to have the reference if people got used to going back and looking at our policies and seeing what is the school's policies on this. Okay, yes, they're all in law, but that's a nice little summary for them to look at. So, not that people are necessarily doing that, but that's why I think it's okay to not delete whole things.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, so that's just a first reading, so we don't have to vote to approve it. It'll come back to the board at our next meeting for a second reading, and that's when we would vote to approve it. Okay, so moving along to item 12, board president report and board member comments. I will go first, and I will try to keep it brief. I think there's something at 8:15. I don't remember what it is. I'd just like to say, you know, it's my first year as the board president, and I'm honored to have that role. And I had the pleasure of speaking to the new staff at the new staff orientation, as well as the, you know, the full district on the first day kind of orientation. And it was real honor to do that, and I appreciated the opportunity. And it's just really great to see folks being excited and together and talking. And, you know, it's a palpable kind of feeling at the beginning of school, and it certainly isn't without its challenges. And I know that as a parent, as a board member, and a community member, but I appreciate the understanding and the patience that people have shown. And I think, you know, at our core, we're all focused on trying to make this as smooth as possible for the students. That's certainly my intent. And I appreciate the efforts that have been made already by the district to try to, where we can, make changes and improvements, and I will certainly continue to advocate for that as the board president. I wanted to, so we've heard in prior meetings, folks say that they're frustrated that they can't email the board directly. We have had an email address, but it would go to the district clerk, and then the district clerk would forward it on to the board president. We have changed that. We want to be available to the community. So there is a email address, HCSD BOE @horseheadsdistrict.com. And that, the way that works is that if you send an email to that, it comes to all 9 of us at the same time. And so we will all see that. It does not go through anyone else, doesn't get filtered in any way. There are rules about the ability to respond and sort of get into if you know, we have more than 4 board members communicating even in that forum, that's technically a public meeting. And so we would run afoul of open meetings law. And so the way it's structured is the board president has the ability to respond, to acknowledge receipt, or if there is some substantive response to be provided, but otherwise, you know, that whatever it is that's brought to the attention of everyone because they have access, and then it can be, you know, to the extent it should or needs to be discussed, we can do that in an open meeting in accordance with the law. So that address is currently on the Board of Education page of the Horseheads District webpage, and it's a little bit down the page, and we're going to change that. We're going to have that, I want it up at the top, very, you know, big and bold so people see where that is, and we encourage you to use it, and that way you'll be able to communicate with all of us instantaneously. Recognize, you know, we all have day jobs, and so we may not respond to it immediately, but suffice to say, we will read that email, I will read that email, and, you know, we'll address it. And then the last item for my fellow board members, 12.02, there are draft board goals for this year, and I drafted these based upon information from our self-assessments at the end of last year, as well as general discussion during our board retreat held over the summer. And so these are certainly, you know, I just tried to crystallize what I heard into some proposed goals, which now and we do need to just get to the extent we're going to discuss them, it needs to be in public session, so that's why they're available to the public there on the in board docs. I know folks are just seeing them this evening, so happy to talk about them now, or we can, you know, look them over, think about it, and then in the next meeting have a discussion and finalize them. That's what the board goals, and these are intended to represent just what it says, the goals, the things that as a board we're going to try to focus on and aspire to this year, you know, as a collective group. So are there any questions, or does anyone have anything on the board goals at the moment? Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see. Who was? Okay.
So I don't know if we can do number 4 because of what Dr. Douglas was saying. This is just like we talk about it, because he was saying that we wouldn't be bringing anything forward to the public within the next year. I think that's what he was talking about in the in his report. So I think that number 4 contradicts what he said.
Can I? Yeah. Well, that's it. Here, let me explain. And I wrote it very intentionally to be that we would consider and deliberate on a potential, and it says potential next capital referendum, and consider what that scope might be and understand what the cost might be, but all of that as sort of long-term planning. This is not intended, and if we need to clarify it, happy to do that, but not intended to say that we would bring any kind of project forward this year. It's more just, I know to do a project next year, you have to start talking about it this year, right? So it's just long-range discussions, is the way I would put it. These are not my goals for the board. These are what I have, someone had to put pen to paper based upon things we've talked about. Like, for example, we've talked about the desire to understand more from an educational standpoint about performance levels of students and data. And so I tried to crystallize that into a goal. But yes, most certainly, if you have ideas for additional or different goals, or think these should be stated differently, we should have that discussion. Because ultimately, we're going to vote on and finalize a goals document that we all have to, work toward collectively. So, and I know you're just seeing it now, right? So I'm not asking us to vote on it or approve it tonight. I'm thinking that will be October, so you have plenty of time to think about it. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay, so instead of having like board presentations on the performance levels of students, I would like say board discussions on like where we talk about student outcomes and ideas that we have to have improvement in those and what areas we want to see improvement and how that would work. I think that we have the discussions, not like, necessarily presentations. So, and then, having more board discussions on any topic that we have instead of, just the traditional, we have a presentation and we make comments on the presentations, more like we have discussions about things that are important or things that we need to have, discussions about, but mostly student outcomes.
Okay.
You had posed the question if we wanted to discuss or wait to review. I would like to wait to review because I would like to reflect back upon our Board of Education evaluation that we did. It's been a few months, so I'd like to refresh myself on that prior to having this discussion.
Thank you. That's Ms. Dale?
So just two things. So one, I think it's important as we look at all of these, and again, as we're all reviewing prior to the next meeting, is, our goals should be measurable. So at the end of the year, we can say, yes, we achieved that, no, we didn't achieve it. So I think that's really important, that they're not just open-ended goals. The other thing related to the capital project is I think it's also important, it's not just a review of what the next project would be. It's also looking at the bigger picture as to if we didn't do another project, what implication would that have to the district, both from an equity standpoint and a financial standpoint. When we started this whole thing back in 2017 with the first referendum, it's all also about that cycle of debt and what happens if we were to stop it, and how do we continue to maintain the district over time. So I think it's, it is important to begin those discussions now, and do that this year, and looking at both sides of the coin as we start looking towards the future.
Thank you. I think, as was noted by Ms. Chabon, it would be a good idea to allow everyone to look back at the prior materials, refresh their recollection, and then we can, work toward discussion, a more fulsome discussion, and then approval of the next meeting. So I'm going to move it on to board member comments, and I'll just say, as folks should know, we follow our board policies. 2352 talks about board members can speak on items for 5 minutes, and then others can be heard, and then you're allowed a follow-up on that item for up to 3 minutes. And I say this just, we welcome comments from board members, but in order to have some structure around it, the period, I'm going to do my best to kind of follow those times. And if anybody is bumping up against a time, I'll give you a sign and try to move you on. So with that, does anyone have any comments? Still?
So I just want to, I probably today, and I think it was today, I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw something that really made me smile. And I know she's not here, but Patty Sotero dressed as a traffic cone. And you know, I'll tell you, it had a lot of meaning, because the meaning was, okay, here's, you know, we know it's been a difficult situation at all of our schools since the first day. And we knew it was going to be, and we're working through it. And I do appreciate the patience that, you know, our staff has, that our community has, because it's changed. It's changed for everybody. But then, you know, to kind of take that difficult situation and, you know, have fun with it, and, you know, make it lively for the kids and lighthearted. So I just want to applaud Patty for doing that. And and I'm sure those things are happening at all the schools. It's just, I just happened to see that on Facebook, and it really made me smile. And I think that, you know, we all need to look at the opportunities that we have with the current situations, and how we can all work together to make it better. You know, so thank you, Patty, and I'm sorry she's not here, and I really wish that she came tonight in her cone. I said that to her when I walked in tonight. But I thought that was really awesome.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you to the whole district for, you know, a fresh start to another year. And as we had a lot of changes this year, something fun that comes along with it is change management, right? And how we navigate that, and the cycle of change management, which means how do you work through it, right? What are the ideas? How do you come up with the ideas? How do you implement the ideas? How do you make people aware of the changes? And then the fun one at the end is feedback and reevaluation, and, as I will quote a Friends episode, pivot, right? How do we pivot? How do we take what is happening, make adjustments to make it better? And I just want to share that we've heard the feedback from the community, from staff members, and that is what the district is attempting to do right now, is to pivot. And it's not easy to pivot when you have something already written out on paper. It may look beautiful on paper, right? But when it's implemented, it may need to be changed, because we can't eliminate the human factor from paper, right? So in doing so, I just want to encourage the community and the district to be patient with the pivot as the district is working through it. And it has been heard, you know, and I love the lightheartedness of Mrs. Sotero in her traffic cone. I haven't seen that picture, but I have to see it. But that is what we do as a community, that we hear the feedback, we make the changes that are necessary. And again, just remember, you can't please the masses all the time, but you can try to please the most majority that you can. So not everybody's going to be happy all the time, but we try our best to make as many people happy as possible. There you go.
I had one thing, and then Tom kind of addressed it about these trainings. Who mandates that the school, that the board members have to take these trainings?
State.
Is it a state mandated thing?
Yes.
And why do we don't work for the district, so why does the state mandate that we do that?
They put your name on it, honestly, you said board members are required to do this.
Well, I was gonna say, I didn't do this in the 90s when I was on the school board. So I did it last year, and the same thing, I did it again today, and why not do this? Because I don't work for the school district.
4.5 hours of training over and over again every year that you can almost.
I have to do it every 2 years for daycare, and I do some of the very same things there, but I don't have to do it now here. It's like, it's repetition.
as one example, like, teachers are required, administrators are required to do child abuse training. And they did a new child abuse training and required everybody last year to do it. Well, they just changed it, now they put out a new mandate to do it again, but it's not due until 2026. And nobody will explain why they're doing it. But we're forced to comply.
So you're saying things you sent us today is not a federal mandate? That's the way to do it.
Some of the new federal laws, such as Title IX, other than are more state specific, such as workplace violence. So there's an area.
One of the reasons also, if I can add, although you're not employees of the district, you are an employer. You employ me. And anybody that's an employer, whether it's one, whether it's thousands, is obligated to know and understand those requirements.
Okay.
I don't think you're going to challenge me.
No, I know, it's just like, I don't get it, but
Yeah.
I guess I have to get it, so. Okay, and I wasn't gonna say anything about the start of schools, but, people have done adjusting, very well and have worked hard, and I've watched them. I know there's still work to be done, and, there is frustration, with all of it, you know, and, I hear the frustration and I'm in the frustration. And so we still have to work together and try to make what's best, because bottom line is we're here what's best for students and for our staff. These hours to me are early, and I just want to thank everyone who's been doing what they've been
First, I want to apologize to all those who came to speak that I was not here. My daughter did have something that I needed to be present for, but I thank you for coming and addressing my fellow board members. We are listening, and as Mr. Christmas mentioned, we all now are able to see emails that come to the board, which is really important. So send your concerns, keep showing up, it does matter, and we are listening. I wanted to thank a student, Heather Falco. She is a student at our high school, and this was on social media as well. Heather does a bake sale every year and buys school supplies for our elementary schools and then brings them. And she's been doing this for several years now, and she's, you know, it's a selfless act that she does, but I really think it's important to recognize that. It was pretty impressive. Thank you to all the staff at all the schools. I go to the middle school in the morning, and I can tell you, it's seamless. Like, I really appreciate it. They have staff there in phones the first couple days too, and it was fun. Because kids are crossing both ways. But it really is, my son went there, he's a senior now, and it's night and day.
So nice to hear somebody say that.
I will say, it's even drop off and pick up. Like, I really feel it's really improved. So I agree with what my fellow board members have said, like, patience and change is happening, and we'll get it right. For the transportation issues, it's just gonna take a little bit, because it took a little while for middle school and intermediate, right? Like, we all remember the days of the back up to Broad Street, and it's not that way anymore. So, kudos to everyone involved with that process. Now, I do hear everyone's concerns about the BOCES and the new visions, and, you know, the 5 minutes to get to the classes, and arriving late and everything. And as we all talk about changes happening, we gotta be patient, how do we pivot, right? Well, I think maybe it's time that we ask, you know, the BOCES superintendents, DC Salini, to come to the board and do a presentation, so we can learn what their requirements are as well for seat time and requirements. And I don't know. I hear that our students are missing hours and different things, but I'll be honest with you, I really have no idea if they are and what the requirements are. So I don't know, that's something the board would be open to, but I think it would be beneficial for us to understand what their requirements are and hear it directly from them so that we can make the pivot appropriately. So I would appreciate if all of you would consider that and happy to have a discussion about it. My only other thing I wanted to bring up is I do have concerns about Some of our transportation vehicles have a banner on that hook with the yield sign, I'm not sure, so I know they pull out in front of the buses, so the buses can all leave the schools in a timely manner. And I think it's a great concept. I just would like to possibly see if there's any support we can get from, you know, possibly from county sheriffs or our resource officers or anyone like that to help with that, instead of us doing it and taking the responsibility of having it. So, just, I don't know if anyone else has seen those banners or not, but on the back of our vehicles has a yield sign, and they, when you're, I only have seen it from middle school, but when you pull out of middle school, like when the buses start to go, that vehicle pulls in front and stops all the traffic turning right and coming up Sing, so all the buses can get out on time. I don't know, first of all, I don't know if it's legal for us to make our own banners and put them on vehicles, whether they're DOT approved or not. But second, I'd be concerned about an accident if someone tried to pass that or anything like that, and we might want to look at a more proactive way to do that is more, you know, with black person possibly involved.
And if I can give you a little update today.
Yeah.
First of all, we're now starting to take those off because we have to teach people. We actually asked them, and because we're trying not, I mean, we have the right to stop traffic coming off the property, and if we have to, we're going to. We don't want to, so we had to teach. We've actually worked with the village, and the village has been watching it and is okay with that because it is helping the village at this point to try to manage that time when you got 40 buses coming through and everybody wanting to go every which way. So they are monitoring it with us because otherwise we requested an officer to be stationed there at the time. And they said this seems to be working and it's at a stop sign and so forth. But on the lighting part is Mr. Nicoletti, I have trouble with Rich. I think of my phone saying my slata, because, you know, Surrey doesn't talk too well sometimes. But Rich and I were over at Barrington watching today, unbeknownst to anybody, and we stopped the vehicles. So today was the first day they pulled out without, you want to know what happened?
They all got out.
They all got out, but why? Because we've got some great parents that pulled up and stopped. And you know what? It only took 4 minutes, and people were very good. Now, the people that were in line were actually all coming and turning, I think it's south on Sing Sing, going towards Broad. And I don't know if everybody would do this, but this one woman and this one man won't come. Go ahead. Allow kids to cross in the crosswalk, allow the buses to go on. Nobody was beeping and anything. That's what we were hoping to teach. We can do it without the lights and have anybody's vehicle. And if somebody uses their motor vehicle and passes a double yellow line, that will be a problem. We're trying to teach people don't deal with it. I think that worked well today. I think every now and then we might have to do some refreshers. We're trying to hope not, but we are also having some discussions with our SROs that if it becomes an issue, they're a duly licensed sheriff in the county. I believe they have a requirement that they could be authorized to be a constable, which is required in New York State. And a constable who's a duly certified officer and an officer that can carry a weapon, which we have, can also enter into any state, county, or town road and direct traffic if needed. We are hoping we don't have to do that, but those are options that we're exploring. And in worst case to worst, we just stop traffic on our road to sort of minimize traffic on the road. It's about a 3 to 4 minute thing, which we can use the SRO to do that automatically. But most people have been very good, so we're trying to, as we go through it, we're trying to see what works best. And right now, I'm going to ask Ron to put something out and say, thank you. Would you please consider really trying to have that general courtesy? But yeah, everything hit well, and actually all of our buses left, I think, just a little bit before our 3:30 time that we were shooting. So,
6 seats account.
yeah. That's why it took so long to correct, because we couldn't get approval to put the turning lanes in. And it took a little state initiative with Mr. O'Mara, as well as the county executive, to put those turning lanes, which is helping tremendously. But overall, it's working the way it was designed. Luckily.
Anything else, Billy? Or? No? Okay. Okay. Aaron, please.
our district, and have students in our district. So I just want to share a few things that hopefully we can help change or hopefully correct here in the near future. I know it's on our next agenda, the start times. But from what I've heard, extracurricular activities have been affected. It's an ongoing challenge. Sorry, I lost my place here. So here's an example. Some students not getting enough sleep at night when they get home late from a sporting, music event, or extracurricular activity due to the early start time the next day, anxiety associated with drop-off pickups at several schools, mostly elementary schools. Also, high schools, I've heard there's some anxiety with that pickup drop-off because some places have been blocked. When younger students hear the older students getting up early in the morning, then they are woken up to at that time. By the time they get home from school, they're too tired to participate in extracurricular activities. Teachers working in elementary schools are struggling with late release times to get to older students that their extracurricular activities start at an earlier time. It gives little to no time for family dynamic, for them to sit down and have dinner, let alone do homework before going out the door. If they do participate in extracurricular activities, walking in the middle school classes has been cut from 5 minutes to 3 minutes to get from one class to another. The reason I know is because my daughter's in the middle school, so she's told that she's a pretty serious student, that if she's late, she gets marked tardy, and so many tardies can result in suspension. So she brought that to my attention because she is a serious student. Walking in between high school classes has been cut from 8 minutes to 5 minutes, and I know some places take a long time to get, so that's a little bit concerning. Without language in 7th grade, I know my daughter has 2 study halls a day. I've heard some kids have 3 study halls a day. Cafeteria lines being long and overwhelming for the staff in the lunchrooms. When it comes to BOCES, I can say I'm a proud BOCES employee for 19 years. Our Horseheads morning students now arrive at 9:15 for CTE. That's career and technical education. Obviously, New Visions takes a little longer to get to O'Hare College. In prior years, Horseheads arrived at 8:45. All other schools arrive between 8:40 and probably 9 o'clock or 9:05 at the latest. Teachers are losing valuable instructional time every day, and I learned this because I'm there firsthand. When students leave, they go back to Horseheads, and then they sit on the bus until 11:45 when the next class starts. So then they sit on the bus for 25 minutes. The afternoon students arrive at noon. They are supposed to leave at 2:15, which we've had several days where students from a variety of BOCES classes miss the afternoon bus. And this, unlike any other year, we've always had kids miss the bus. That happens in every district. If the districts are called, the buses come back. This year, no Horseheads buses haven't come back. Several times, including today, when I drove more students in a BOCES minivan back to Horseheads to just barely in time catch their bus so they got home on time. We've had several days, we have so much anxiety in the students. With this, that's really never happened before this year, and it's really not called for. And we have hundreds of CTE students and tens of New Vision students that this affects. Also, when the students go back to homeschool from BOCES at 2:15, they sit on the bus until 2:35. I understand that change is ongoing. It can be challenging. Things progress, and we all need to adjust. However, change within our district has caused stress, anxiety, and overwhelming pressures amongst our staff and students. We as a board, along with administrators at Horseheads, need to sit back, revisit these changes, and try to better them as a team to take stress off of our families, staff, and students. Also, when it comes to the new email, I believe this is a step in the right direction, even though I asked to have an individual. I think members of the community, some people feel more comfortable reaching out to an individual, and we're all voted on this board as individuals, and I think it's something that we should discuss as a board, and something that should be voted on. If we want our own personal information out there, I don't think there should be a problem with it. I think we should be able to discuss that, not just we have this email that comes up and now we automatically get all these emails. I think it could or should be an individual thing. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks. I just wanted to echo everybody's on this board's sentiment. Starting the school year is no easy task. As a teacher myself, I know massive amounts of organization involved in getting a school district on its feet
and rolling, so I want to give props, kudos, accolades from the superintendent, to all the administration, to all the teachers, principals, cleaners, drivers, everybody. It's the most massive undertaking I can imagine. So I just want to thank everybody here for an amazing start. You're going to get your wrinkles, you've got to iron them out, but you started. We're going. Let's keep going. So I just want to thank this district for doing something unbelievably complicated. I wanted to make sure that I thanked Mr. and Mrs. Finlayson Blitz, Erie DePetta, for coming today. It takes a lot of courage to get up on that lectern and say what you have to say, and I appreciate everything that you said. We are listening. So thank you very much. I wanted to also thank the HCA President, Bill Finnerty, for coming and presenting a wonderful idea. Everybody should have a voice. Bargaining units should come if they wish, if they have something to report on. We're here to listen. It adds to the transparency that we talk about all the time. We want you to know that we're here and we want to know what you have to say and we want to listen. So I love the ideas of everybody coming to talk. That's what we're here for. That's why we ran. That's why we're sitting on this table to listen to you. So I also wanted to thank two administrators, I believe, Kelly and Damian. I had an opportunity with two other board members to sit on the wellness committee this past week, and it was awesome. Teachers looking out for teachers, paying attention to our health, to our mental health, to our physical health too, depending on what activities we like to do together. But it's just nice to see us that we may be alone in the classroom, but we're not our own islands as teachers. And it's lovely to recognize that, and I just wanted to thank you for it. It was amazing to be there for it, and to see you guys with all the energy you mustered. So thank you so much. Let's see, there was one thing that I did want to bring up. It's come to my attention that there is no after-school supervision for the intermediate school students following participation in extracurricular activities, whereas supervision is provided at the elementary and middle school levels. Whether it's full aftercare provided by the YWCA Kids World, or supervision between school and athletics at the middle school, 7-8, nothing exists for 5th and 6th graders. Now, again, I might be mistaken, but it seems that there's an inequity, and a tiered system may have been created, giving students who have an at-home driver at that time to come and pick them up after their activities conclude at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And a clear advantage is being created for those that participate. But what the intermediate school has to offer after instructional hours, it's only available to those that we find somebody to come get them at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because 10, 11, 12-year-olds do not drive. But if we were to practice what we preach, our schools would make, and should make, every effort to provide an equitable environment for all students who wish to enjoy and add to the positive culture in our school and community. There's so many wonderful things offered at the intermediate school: garden club, student council, symphonic, drama club, and hand. And it should, I find it to be kind of a shame when I hear some parents say, well, my kid can't do it because I can't get him at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So let's explore some options. I just want to bring it to the attention to the superintendent, to Dr. Douglas. I'm not asking for a directive or anything, just maybe some information. I know solutions aren't as easy to come by, and fixes are not easy sometimes, and I can appreciate that. But I'm just asking informally, just for some information from Mrs. Kim Malone, your intermediate school principal, or the superintendent, Dr. Douglas, for maybe just a cost analysis if we were to offer an after-club supervisory period for those students, just for a little while, not anything till dinner time or anything, but just to open a conversation, to open a dialogue, to see if we could offer something for 5th and 6th graders, for the student body of the intermediate school. Thanks.
Any other comments?
I'd like to thank everybody else who came out today to speak, and I'd like to say thank you to the staff and everybody who does make it all work. And, you know, everybody has moved mountains to really make it work. But then I ask myself, is this sustainable? Is this sustainable to do year after year, over and over again? Is it sustainable for families to endure this all of the time? A couple parents came and spoke tonight about the New Visions program and the CTE hours that Kara's talking about. You know, a student shouldn't have to make that choice between I'm going to leave and I'm losing educational hours, or what am I going to miss? And when people come and they talk to us and we say, we hear you, we're doing something, I think that it has to be a little bit more action. Like, we have to take action. So to me, okay, originally, to align with BOCES start times, we voted to have the high school start at 7:20. We didn't vote to have the intermediate school start at 7:20. And so that 15 minutes makes the difference. That is the difference right now. So to me, pivoting would look like middle school and intermediate have to go in that 7:35 time slot, and drop off has to happen at the high school first.
They can't. Their day is too short.
Okay, I understand that, but this is the type of, like, when we voted to have this happen, we were given information. I remember Warren distinctly asking if it would impact BOCES and how it would impact BOCES. A student who's taking a CTE course at BOCES, this could be their career for life. This isn't college. They might not be going to college. They need to have those hours. They need to have the time. That has to shift, and it can't wait a year to shift. It has to shift now. So I don't know how it works. What I know how it works is that the board votes on a start time, and then everybody else figures out how to make it work within that. So we voted on a start time, which was 7:20 for the high school, and that did not happen. So that has to be fixed. It can't be we are all collectively working on it, because we don't collectively work on it. We say this is how it has to happen. It has to happen. So that's a problem. I appreciate the veterans coming out. I'd like to look into a tax break for the veterans. The people who came that had the petitions that we haven't gotten yet, but hopefully we'll get to look over. They asked to have a committee formed, a board committee formed, to reinvestigate and to look into these start times. And with all the challenges that we have, I think that yes, we have to dig into this deeply, talk to people, find the nuances, and figure out how to best serve the community as a whole and how it will impact student outcomes long-term. Rushing children from class to class, not giving them breaks, having long days impacts their ability to learn and impacts their ability to function. I can see this firsthand with my own children with the long school days on both ends. So, and I see it in a lot of different children, and I've heard a lot of different feedback from the community, and it can't just be, we hear you, we're working on it. We need to make a motion, we need to make resolutions, we need to say this is what's going to happen, action needs to be taken. So, to me, you know, I understand the state hours. It's 900 hours for 180 days. When you divide that, it comes out to 5 hours a day. So even if we put the cushion at 6 hours a day, instead of 6 hours and 40 minutes, that still gives time. Because you need to have breaks. Kids need breaks. They need to have time to eat. Having lunch at 10:30 in the morning is not the best time to have lunch. Like, these are the conversations that your public wants answers to. They want us to figure it out, and I came here to do just that. I came here to figure it out. So, I make a motion to have this committee that they have asked us to create, to revisit the start times, be my first motion. And I don't know if we have to vote on that now or not, but it needs to happen. We need to investigate it, or just as a whole board, we just make a vote to make that happen. And immediately, not like in January or whatever else, something has to be done for these students at BOCES. It has to be done. It is not fair to these kids, you know? It's not fair to them. And we can't wait. We have to pivot. It has to be quick. So, you know, I'd like to do that. Start the committee and fix the new vision stuff. And then what Matt was saying about the teachers, when they came and they spoke and they want to have somebody here, a slated agenda item, I'm also in favor for that, and I think that should be a motion as well, that we vote on. I don't know, I think we can make the motion to do that this evening. He talked about having them do the agenda, but I think we have to, when people come and speak to us, we have to start addressing their concerns. And it can't be, we're gonna wait a month, okay? We have to have a special meeting to address concerns, and we have to do it. We have to.
Did you, the only board member that's one time, Warren, or you good?
No, everybody said things that I might say. I don't need to repeat like everybody else said, repeating each other's comments.
Okay. So, that concludes, everyone's spoken for their requisite time of 5 minutes. You have the opportunity for 3 additional if anyone wants it. Other than that, I would move to the adjournment.
I make a motion.
Can I second? So we can vote?
Well, you can only vote on one motion at a time.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion on the first one where we have a committee to focus and talk about the start times.
And we have a board policy that talks about committees. I think what's being contemplated is so this is policy 2250. It talks about special ad hoc committees of the board, and there's a process that needs to be followed, which starts with putting a whole resolution together. The board president is responsible for doing this with the purpose, the chairperson, the membership, the role, etc. So my view would be it's premature to just vote on a committee. We can, explore it, but that would be the process to do it. I think simply voting on it is not in line with policy 2250.
Okay, so what you're saying, like we're having the meeting next month on the start times, and the public came and asked to have a committee formed, so you could draft that potentially for us, for a resolution for us to have that we could vote on at the next meeting if we want to have this committee, and who would potentially be on that committee to help resolve this situation.
Well, my view is that, as we've talked about, we are intending to have a discussion about start times, understand sort of how things have gone thus far, where there are opportunities for improvement. We talked in August about doing that in October. So my recommendation would be, let's do that. Let's have information in hand, and then on the basis of that, decide how we move forward. So I would personally feel like it's premature to, put a committee in place until we have some more clarity and we have that discussion in October.
So do you want to put a motion for the teachers to be able to come and speak, since we're already going to address that, so we can put that on for our next meeting as well to vote on or to discuss?
Someone can make a motion, it would require a second and then a vote. I'll say my view is that requires I would want us to consult with our legal counsel, just understand the collective bargaining implications and the contractual implications, and if all of that if it can be done in a way where we're acting in line with those obligations, then I think that's when I would suggest we discuss it and vote on it. But you can make a motion.
I was just going to say, I know for a fact that Elmira has a standing part of their agenda where the teachers union is allowed to speak. I've gone there, they've never been, I think the big fear might be they'll be disrespectful or it'll be a contentious, confrontational thing. I've never seen that down there. I think they come in, they say their piece, or sometimes they just say everything's grand. So, if there is a legal concern, Elmira has ignored it apparently.
Well, if I may,
That's all I would say.
it may be that they have something in writing, or when they put it in place, they talked about protocols. For example, there's a grievance procedure under the contract, right? So if we had a bargaining unit come and talk about a grievance or something to that effect.
I agree.
Right, so my point is just, let's just understand what would the protocols be, what would the sort of guide rails be, and I don't know what that is sitting here right now. That's why I'm saying, I'm not opposed to the idea, completely. I just think that I'd like some more information personally as to how we would structure it.
I think that we would also have to consider all the bargaining units within the district, right? So if we were allowing the teachers to do it, we would need to set aside time for all of the bargaining units. So, I think that's another factor that needs to be considered. And I don't know if Elmira had considered that as well. I don't even know how many bargaining units they have. But we need to have that equity. So that's another factor. So, I would also recommend not only looking at the possibility of having a dedicated time during board meetings, but is there another way to get to that same outcome, right? So does it become a standing item in the weekly updates that we get, or something where every bargaining unit has the opportunity to supply, a write-up for those, So I think just, kind of looking outside the box as well, as to what all those options could be. So I do think it's something that needs to be, I don't know if we can just vote on it tonight. I think it's something that would warrant a larger discussion about all the opportunities.
Okay, it's not working, so I'm just gonna talk loud. So I agree, and I would support that. I think it would be really great to either have it in the update or in at a time when if they wanted to come and address us, they could through as a normal portion. I'd appreciate if someone could look into that. I think that'd be fantastic. We've heard multiple times, obviously, the concerns about requirements, CT and stuff, and I did bring up the idea of having Stacy Salvini, the superintendent of OCs, come and address the board. Is that something, Mr. Christmas, that we need to make do I need to make a motion for that to have that looked into, or is that just something that you and Dr. Douglas would be able to look into to see if she'd be available? Potentially, if we're talking about this at the next board meeting in October, potentially she could come and do a presentation at that time, if her schedule is available, of course, if the board wanted to hear that. We could hear from her the requirements of exactly what the new visions and BOCES requirements are, so we can get a better understanding, and not just have your side.
I don't think it needs a motion.
Okay.
I can't, compel it, right? Like, and if she's not available, maybe we could hear from our own staff, right? So that's what we about it. But I guess what I would say is, I also would like to understand more about exactly the time requirements, et cetera. But so maybe we let the district figure out how best to update us on that and defer to their, discretion on that. But we can anticipate talking about it as part of our start time discussion in October. I would be comfortable with that.
I think I would be comfortable hearing directly from someone from BOCES, not someone on our staff, but potentially someone from their staff. Is what I'm requesting.
I agree, I like that.
I don't know.
You can make a motion. I'm not opposed to hearing from BOCES either. I just think it would, if anything, it'd probably be a joint presentation. It's, BOCES is a completely separate school district. We don't have the ability to make BOCES come and talk to us.
BOCES works for us.
I think we should. Why don't we, I have no opposition whatsoever in asking her to come and talk to us. But I feel like it should be done in
to be on a regular calendars.
Yes.
So I think we got a little sidetracked though, but I do want for the October meeting to have on it like the vote on the agenda on if we're gonna put a teacher representative, all the stuff that we were talking about. I would like that to be a vote on the next thing that we make a vote on. We can have information, we can have discussion about it, but in the end, I think there needs to be a resolution of whether or not we're gonna do this. They're gonna be on it or not. That gives us time to get information and to make a decision on whether or not we're gonna have it, and information can be presented, so that can be an agenda item for the next month. And I also do think that we should have a resolution crafted for the potential of the committee that the public requested we have, that they have a petition with signatures for. So I'm making the motion to have both of those things created to be voted on at the next meeting. That's what I'm asking for.
You said placing a teacher on the board?
No, the
Okay.
teacher representative, the person, the collective bargaining, you know what I mean. The person that they had, the time slot that they had, what Maura just said, Elmira's got it already. So I'm saying that that would be voted on at the next meeting. I'm asking to put that onto the agenda, make sure that we have that. I'm making the motion, and I'm hoping to get a second for those two things to be on there for the next meeting, so we can have action for the committee to investigate the start times, which are making big impacts on everybody, right? And then for also
There to be that teacher thing. Sorry. Okay. I'll second the motion.
What's the motion?
Yeah, you need to state that for specificity. You need to be clear what we're voting on.
Okay, so we are making, just like what you read with the policy, about how it has to be, if we're gonna do it, it has to be written by the board president, that there would be a resolution, and what the committee's going to do, state clearly, like, what is the job of this committee, you know, what they're gonna do, start time wise. So making the resolution, so having that resolution on for the next one, so that we can make a vote on that. Does that make sense?
So the motion is in accordance with policy 2250 to consider at the next board meeting, or vote at the next board meeting on the creation of a special committee related to start times. Is that a fair statement of your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second? That's your motion. Is there a second?
Well, including in it.
You have to divide it into two separate, those are two different items.
Okay. That's my first one.
I'll second.
Is there any comments or questions on the motion? Warren?
I think it's premature. We said we discussed the starting times at the next board meeting. Other than what we've heard tonight, maybe there's positives, maybe there's no positives, but we put on our agenda that it would be discussed in October. Seems to me we're already saying we're going to study now by this motion the starting times. Then my next question would be, why do we need that item on the agenda if you're making a committee to discuss it? I would like to know what the discussion would be about, what the feedback would be about, and then once we hear that, maybe we have the committee, but I think it's premature. And if this passes, then I would make a motion, and I'm not making the motion now, but I'm forewarning, I'll make a motion to take that off October's agenda. There's no need to discuss it because now it's going to committee.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment on the motion?
If I could just make one thing before you take any motion. Does the board understand the hours are contractual? You can't change them. They're contractual. They are negotiated, they are settled times of instruction. Just so that you know.
I don't think anyone's arguing contractual times. I think they're arguing the times that they start and the times that they end.
I understand that, but the length of the elementary day is 6 hours, 46 minutes. It's not changing. The length of the high school day is roughly 7 hours. Their work day is 7.5. The work day of an elementary, I think an elementary teacher is 7.5, except on Friday where it's, I think, 6 hours and 50 minutes or something like that. Those are contractual. They can't change. They would, no matter what, if you move one, you're affecting the other. So if you move, hypothetically, just so that you're at least knowledgeable, and we'll explain this next month, if you move the high school time to, say, 7:20, the elementary time to make the buses work has to be at least 20 minutes before that. If you move it to 7:50, it's still got to be 20 minutes before that. If you say, like some people we said in the beginning, you move the elementary to the beginning and you move the high school to the afternoon or the day forward. Whatever time the elementary starts, you need about 1 hour and 25 minutes, no matter what, to send the buses all the way out and pick up, and then hit the middle school and it will intermediate school, and they'll hit first because it has to be them now because they have a shorter day, and that's 1 hour and 20 minutes. So say hypothetically, just flip them. The elementary would say at 7:30. That makes it easy. The intermediate school isn't going to start until at least 8:40. The high school isn't going to start until 9 o'clock. Period. That's what's required for busing. The only way you can get around that, you got to double your busing. We can't do that. The only way you can get around that, have a super campus and bring all the kids in. If we tried to sit there, as some people have said, and say, let's go back to K-6 and do one busing, hey, I'm all for it. But you understand, when you go out to all the district, the elementaries are the shortest, so you'll have to start with them and go to each elementary school, then go to the intermediate school and middle school, and then go to the high school. If it's one time, those kids are going to be sitting on at least 20 minutes in between each building to get to school, and then it has to reverse in the afternoon the same exact way. That's what we've been dealing with. That's the only reason why when we said 7:20, we had to shift it to 7:30 and 7:20, and we had to play with 5 minutes one way, 5 minutes the other. Everybody can think they can solve the problems of the world. It's not that easy. But those are all things that are tied together no matter what. And you know what? BOCES is setting their schedule. They will not move their schedule one bit, and we understand. There are different schools from different regions in all of our BOCES across the state that will have certain times that they arrive. BOCES requires, I believe, 2 hours of instruction for their credit. I believe we're at 2.5 hours for their credit. We decide credit, not BOCES. We decide if a student is legal or illegally absent. That rests with the home district. They provide a service we pay for. So I'm hoping you understand it's not that easy as everybody thinks it is. And everything's tied, and it's tied by a contractual agreement. So if you mess with it, you understand you may be violating contracts, and I can't do that.
So there's a motion on the floor. Does anyone else want to comment or question on the motion? Christine?
I agree with Warren. It's premature, right? So we've been in school for 2 weeks. And yes, there's been a lot of obstacles, but it's gotten better and over time, it's not perfect. I'm not going to say that it's perfect, but I feel like, in the end, my opinion is that it's probably better today than it was the first day of school, right? I think that we need to look at a longer period of time to see what's working and what's not working, and do that detailed analysis after we hear about that in October. If we were to form a committee, make a change, right? We have to think about how does another change impact the total community.
There's many families that, rearranged a whole bunch of moving parts to make this new schedule work. So then if all of a sudden we switch directions and say, oh, we're gonna throw that out the window and we're gonna go to this other schedule, then that just puts more people into a tailspin. And I think we need more time for it to settle out. We need more time for the district, just as the district has done the past couple of days looking at traffic flow at Gardner Road, now looking at traffic flow at Big Flats. More of that is needed, and then with a full evaluation in October to say, how are things going? Not necessarily, okay, how are things going? Now let's make a complete pivot. So I think we need more time. We need more time for it to settle. We need to collect more data. And so waiting till October to see all of that and then make the decision, is a committee needed? And if we do a committee, what does that mean, and what would the outcome of the committee potentially be? And how does that impact the broader community?
Sue?
So Tom, when you come in October, do you plan to do a time presentation for the board, or what is your update going to be in October? What will it look like? Well, what will your presentation look like? Have you thought about what your presentation will look like?
We thought about a little about talking about, what we experienced on the first day through like the first couple of weeks. That's what we settled in. Talking about, have we made any tweaks to the schedule? Could there be tweaks for next year? Because honestly, we always said it's going to be 1 to 2 years to get the data, because you're not really looking at it fully, because Ridge Road's at Center Street. It's got to go back to Ridge Road. In addition, we have to look at the lesson schedules, because there was a goal to be under an hour. I want to make sure I have that data. And also so it's tracked, it's not just the first 11 days, but it's more solid. I think you have to look at what's happening with our extracurriculars, what's happening with the students as well. I mean, there's students that are getting out and now getting jobs, right? And here's the thing, there is no immediate thing that we can say. The only time you can change it is next year.
I understand that, but I think there's a big frustration, because when you presented this, and I even went back and clip shot the pictures, you were making this change and changing 40-minute classes, and this was going to benefit BOCES, but it did not benefit the kids going to BOCES. And when children grow up, we stress that they're on time for things. They're on time for their class, they're on time to be at school, and there's consequences when they're not on time. And so they're stressed out because they're kids who are responsible, who are taking, these classes, and they're torn. Okay, well, you can leave early, it's okay, but you can be late down there too, so they can do both things, but they're frustrated every day. They're trying to become young adults, and we're saying, well, it's okay that you're late. Well, it's really not okay that you're late. So there has to be some sort of solution for these kids. Should have we got rid of our 40-minute bookends? I'm not sure that was what we should have done, because when we had our 40-minute bookends at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, out of how many high school students, there's only a couple hundred that actually go to BOCES, or whatever the number is. But you have kids who needed those 40-minute bookends that go to school all day long that I don't think it's maybe working for. So I think we need to see that data too. And we need to know these wise choices, because the bottom line is we're in this business to do what's best for all students. Not just your own, and not just your best friends, but we gotta look what's good for everybody.
The masses.
The masses. And as we started this process, we know that there's some things that have not gone correctly. And we have to be able to acknowledge that and sit down with these students and say, hey, look, and I'm sure maybe they are, but the kids are frustrated. And to me, that's that's not fair to them. You know, it's not fair that they have, and our teachers are doing a great job, and our administrators are doing a great job, and everybody's out, and you know, you're up early or whatever, but we still have to figure out what we can do to help these students and make it best for them.
And I can assure you, my high school principal in this situation has been and trying to make it consistent as well, but that's talking to the students. And we have a few issues, but we have not heard from many, have we, Ms. Earl? That's being reported here.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
But
I'm just
that will be
saying.
part of it because we want to build that for you.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to know, so I think we should wait. And, you know, waiting, even if you make a motion and it passes or it doesn't, we're not here to fix this issue, but we have to look at what we've done.
Thank you. Ms. Chabon?
Should the motion go first?
Larry, you want to speak on the motion?
I
or-
want to address something.
We need to follow our order rules here. This is a motion pending. Everybody has a right to speak on the motion and then to vote. Does anyone else want to speak on the motion, which is whether we commit to forming this committee at the next board meeting?
I just have a question. When you read the policy, you said that a resolution has to be made to form the committee, and it has to be pre-written, and it has to be available. So the reason I wanted to have this motion is because I wanted to be prepared that if, after the presentation, and we have discussions about it, that resolution is there for us to vote on, and we don't have to wait until November to create a new resolution and have it on there. That's why I'm doing it, not to say definite, like this is why we have to do it, because when you read the thing, I'm under the impression that according to that policy, you're saying a resolution has to be formed, like we have to have all of these things pre-typed, like so when we had the committees before, Warren came, he read all of what that committee is gonna do, so why waste another month waiting to have that if we are gonna make a decision on it and we're talking about start times, why wouldn't we already have that there just in case we need to vote on it? That's why I want it there.
I understand why you want it.
That's why
Okay.
I want it there.
Okay. And I'll speak last before we vote. I understand that's why you want it. But if you read the policy, what it talks about is there needs to be thought put into why are we creating this committee? What will this committee do? Who will be the members? And you're saying we essentially have to do all of that in advance of hearing it and then decide maybe we vote for it or don't. I just think it's premature. I think I agree with my fellow board members. It's been a couple of weeks of school. What we need to do is hear from the district, understand what options are. We're not going to change the start time this year, right? We have already put this in place. We put the busing in place. There are thousands of students in this district, and how many, as Ms. Dale said, already acclimated to what we have and would be as equally negatively impacted by a change as those who might be positively impacted. We have to have that kind of information, in my view, before we commit ourselves to make a change. So what I think is we should have this presentation in October. We have the ability to shape what that will look like, right? We're going to talk about that between now and then. And then I think that will inform whether we need a committee, what that committee should look like, and that would get put together. I frankly feel like we're starting to do more and more business in the board comments period, which is just the absolute backwards way of running a $100 million, thousands of students operation, right? Like we put thought into what the agenda is, and we get presentations about things. We make sure that we're fully informed so that we can vote and understand the implications. I really think it's a bad practice if we start to do all of our governing in the last part of the meeting and just react. And I'm not saying what we heard tonight was unjustified, and I appreciate the comments people made, but I think it's being too reactive, right? And we need to act deliberately. That's part of what our job is to understand. We always say the masses, right? What about all those other people that weren't here and didn't speak and might love these times? We have to consider the totality of it and then act in the best interest of everyone. So I, for one, would be against the motion. I call for a vote on the motion to commit to creating an ad hoc committee at the next meeting. All those in favor say aye.
It's not to create it, it's to have the option to vote on whether or not we make it.
All those against say nay.
Nay.
Any abstentions?
All abstention.
Okay, the motion fails. Go ahead.
This should be quick. Tom, if it's possible to ask for drop-off times from all of the buses at BOCES per building. What bus drops off at what building at
By
what time?
district.
And pick up, thank you. That data will be very useful
No
in
problem.
future conversations.
And if kids sit on the bus when they get back to Boston, that never happened before this year.
Okay. Anyone else want to be heard? Final time? Warren?
I want to be here for the first time.
I agree with Mr. Christmas, and I'm glad Mr. Christmas said it, because he said it more eloquently than I did last meeting, where I said, this board member comment section is now a meeting. I left the July meeting for a family obligation that I was 40 minutes late for, but I stayed for the known votes. When I read the minutes of the meeting went on another hour and a half, and there were 2 votes that were unknown to me and unknown to the public. I don't know if that's a violation of the open meetings law or not, but shouldn't the public have a right to know what's on the agenda and what's going to be discussed? Seems to me that,
Somebody did something.
You blew the journalist.
okay.
Transistor.
Seems to me these things should be on the agenda. And we have a process where a board member can email the president and say, I would like this on the agenda. And then the board president and the board vice president and whoever is the third member that month can discuss whether that should be on the agenda, whether it's right to be on the agenda, or it should not be. I think board member comments, when it went into effect, because I was here when it went into effect, was for the baseball team did great, the musical was nice, Mrs. Quintero really looked good out there with the traffic cones. It wasn't to conduct another hour and a half's worth of business. So I agree with you, Mr. Christmas. This is totally gone beyond what the purpose of this section of the meeting is.
Okay, Eric?
With all due respect, we're all board members, no one's more important than anybody else. In last meeting, I asked to have something put on the agenda that we as a board discussed having our personal email and phone number on there. And someone came up with the idea, here's the email, we didn't talk about it, we didn't discuss about it, we didn't vote on it. It was something given to us and we're a board, we're all here individually, so to me, we had these board comments going back and forth because when I asked to have something on the agenda, we vote for it, it wasn't even on the agenda tonight. We just all of a sudden had this new email where we all get these emails, so we did not discuss having our personal emails and our personal cell phones, and that was what was supposed to be on the agenda.
You cannot conduct business as a board member of the Horsehead Central School District with your personal email and your personal phone number. If you look at Corning, Elmira Heights, Watkins Glen, every one of them, the email that's made available is a district email, okay? So this was my proposal. What we heard was that people wanted the ability to email board members. People have the ability to email board members. If that's not sufficient, feel free to email me, as Warren said, in accordance with our policy and ask for an item on the next meeting agenda, and we can talk about that in the agenda planning meeting. But The idea that on the district website, we're gonna put personal email is just, it's not gonna happen.
And Forsyth's district, then whatever.
Which is what is there.
My personal.
Which is what is there, Forsyth's district email. We are a board of 9 people, and if someone has an issue, they should share it with 9. We have no inherent power or ability to do anything as an individual. We are a board, right? And I can think of a more divisive thing than say, why don't you write that person and you write that person, and then start to build these factions. That's exactly what we're trying to avoid. Transparency, what is more transparent than everyone receiving it at the same time? I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion?
I didn't get to make my second motion about the teacher person being on for the next meeting because they came and they spoke, and I wanted that to be on the agenda. And I'm going to reiterate what my sister says. When we ask to have something on the agenda and it doesn't get put on the agenda, then that's when we bring it up in board member
Is there a
comments.
motion on the table right now to adjourn?
But see, you didn't give me a chance, right? We heard it tonight. You could send me an email tomorrow. You could say, can we talk about it at the next meeting? Can this be on the agenda? You could give me a little bit of benefit of the doubt that I'm going to try to do my best to support the whole board. But no, you instantly want to vote on it, and that's what I'm saying is poor governance. And you're not giving me a chance. You want to make your motion, then, and you did talk about it earlier, and said you wanted to make it, so you can make it.
We have to withdraw the motion to adjourn.
Yes.
I'll email it to you tomorrow.
Thank you very much. So the motion to adjourn,
Second.
all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Abstentions? Okay, meeting is adjourned.
I want this word to be 27.